we're going to talk about what does this model of consciousness look like in regards to couples. And so just confirming with Andrea, I'm going to introduce Richard and Andrea in just a minute, but I'm going to lead into that with where this comes from and the research behind it. And so this is the first time I've presented this. It's kind of wild. I actually submitted an article to be published in the journal Family Therapy, and that was like 3 years ago. And I got a rejection letter, but it wasn't like like a duplicated automated rejection letter. It was like they were like, this is really interesting. We're not the right place for it, but you really should probably get this published somewhere and try these places. Okay. So I went back and I read that because I was just like gave up after. It was like, oh, this is too much work. And now I'm ready to get back into that world. And so as I present this, it's going to sound a little academic. This is basically my dissertation from Quantum University. And then I will introduce Richard and Andrea as the role that they play now that I've reawakened this part of my world. So I love this. I use that word awaken. Yes. Awakening together, building mindful partnerships through conscious interventions with Richard and Andrea Haynes. So as we introduce them, I'm going to preface the presentation with some research. My question is, does marriage counseling work? All right, I mentioned that I was in a relationship with a narcissist. He and I did probably 6 to 8 different marriage counseling types of programs over the course of, I don't know, 12 years. We were together like 16, but I can say through that, like, and as I look at what is the results of it, there's only an 18 to 25% success rate after a year of therapy. Now, I know that the success rate in substance abuse is under 30%. It's just under 30% maybe. And what that means is that placebo works better because placebo is 30% success rate. If we look at marriage counseling and it's down to 18, what the question is, are we doing more harm than good? Dang. Okay, that's a big question I think needs to be answered, and that the Journal of Marriage and Family Therapy, I don't know if they've answered that. Statistics of divorce. The average length of a marriage is 8 years. Within the first 5 years of marriage, 20% do not survive. Divorce eventually occurs in 40 to 50% of marriages. And since marriage is still chosen by 90% of the population, I thought that's crazy this was from 2019. By the age of 50, this unhappy ending impacts not only a high percentage of adults, but children from those marriages as well. Yes, that's what we know. So in my dissertation, I basically created a 2-part program. And what my goal was is to be able to say, all right, I'm supposed to address a quantum solution. And so I created a program that had, first of all, it had the Love Self method in it for 3 to 4 weeks of that. And then it includes quantum wholeness meditation as the remaining 3 sessions of, it's basically like an 8-week program. Okay. Part 1 was designed to have more active communication. And then part 2 is the quantum wholeness solutions. And there's 8 different couples that went through the study. And so their positive interactions were measured, their criticizing and defending patterns were measured, and their withdrawal and avoidance patterns were measured. And so there's some positive scores and some negative scores, but over time, we did see change in this. One of the really interesting things about it, and this is like a really quick overview, I'll do a more elaborate one another day, but this was really cool to see the satisfaction with life scale. And that's where you measure how content are you with your life in general. And so the group averages were really interesting. It was like we had a 24-point level, which is slightly satisfied to begin with. And we got up to 27, which is fully satisfied. Okay, so there's change. You can see the change. And in part 1, the satisfaction stayed about the same. Part 2 is where you see it going up. Okay, so that's interesting to know. But here's another one that was really interesting. So cognitive affective cognitive and effective mindfulness. So this is your mindfulness levels, and it's measuring how are you engaged in your life, right? Are you enjoying your life moment to moment? And you can see with that, it actually increased each level. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting about this is that part 1 and part 2, okay, were separate, but I was told I needed to measure the current data at the end of the love self part and then at the beginning of the quantum wholeness meditation part. And I'm like, well, how would it change? I expected, so if there's no session between part 1 and part 2. So why did it go up? And so that was really fun for me to learn. There was a reason why. Richard Haynes earned an MBA discovering his passion for coaching in a performance class. Leaving a 13-year career in facilities management to start his own coaching business was tough, especially with 6 dependents. Inspired by his late sister's faith in him, he took the leap. Despite financial struggles and doubt, he remained committed to helping others reach their potential. And he gives credit to the unwavering support of his wife, Andrea, and her belief in his abilities, giving him the courage to keep going. Today, she stands at the helm of his coaching practice, filled with gratitude for the opportunity to guide individuals on their journey of self-discovery and growth. Most recently, Richard and his wife, Andrea, joined the practitioner track in the Love Self Academy. They are not only getting certified as 0 Point Meridian, but conscious couples facilitators, where they can help not only individuals, but empower couples achieve their highest potential. And Andrea co-owns Empower Potential Coaching with her husband, Richard. This year, they celebrate 25 years of marriage and have 5 children. She has 18 years of homeschooling experience, which just completed last fall, right? And over 20 years as a massage therapist. She's trained in Reiki, energy medicine, sound therapy, EMDR, and 0 Point Meridian. Her greatest joy is motherhood, though. She loves the Chosen series and her new favorite pizza, honey almond chicken on a gluten-free crust from Two Guys in Lethbridge, Alberta. That's fun.
Hello, everyone. We're glad to be here with you today. My name is Richard Haynes, and this is my wife, Andrea.
Hello.
And we're the owners of Empower Potential Coaching. I wish that I could be there with you in person. Had a dear friend pass away on Saturday morning, and I am officiating at his funeral as we speak, as you're listening to us here right now. And so grateful that Andrea and Christine could be here, but also for technology to be able to share some of the thoughts and ideas that we have that we find are extremely valuable, not just in your personal life, but also in connecting and being more cohesive as a couple. And of course, our topic today is building mindful partnerships through conscious interventions. And so we just want to start out by showing you a picture of our tribe, the people that we spend the most time with. That's our family on the left, along with our daughter-in-law. And the picture up on the top right is a picture of us on our 24th anniversary. This is our 25th year this year. In August, it's been 25 years. Can you believe it?
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, it's been wonderful, and we've learned and grown a lot, and just grateful for the ride and the journey. So I want to start out by talking about something that we'll call the synchronization effect. How many of you here have heard the term or the phrase, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with? It's often given to us in a business context to evaluate who are the people that you're hanging out with. And sometimes as parents, we'll give it to our children so they can evaluate their friends. But is this true? Is this real? That we really are the average of these 5 people? And what would make it real? So first of all, neurosynchronization shapes our thought patterns. And this just means that when people interact, their brain waves will synchronize. And over time, our thoughts and perspectives and the ways we process information align more closely with those that we spend the most time with. I don't know if you've run into a couple who has been married for a really long time, a lot longer than 25 years, and you almost feel like you're talking to the same person. Yeah, each one. So
They finish each other's sandwiches.
yes, thank you. Nice frozen quote. That's great. Okay, and so the next one is the emotional contagion model, that our emotions are actually contagious. So they don't just exist in isolation. There's a synchronization with those around us. And the research has confirmed that we unconsciously catch the emotions of other people, those that we interact with the most.
Pretty fascinating.
So if we're surrounded by optimistic people, we'll catch that. If we're surrounded by pessimistic, you'll catch that as well. So pretty, like, really interesting. And then so the next one here is there's also a physiological synchronization. And for those of you who are familiar with heart math, they've done a lot of studies on this kind of synchronization. But essentially, these studies have found that when we engage in social activities together, our heart rates and even our breathing patterns synchronize. And I'm trained in hypnotherapy, and that's also another way of helping people get into a deeper rapport is for me to consciously synchronize my breathing patterns with the person that I'm working with, which is pretty cool. And so then the last one here is that there is behavioral and habitual influence as well with our brainwaves, emotions. And so these all sync around us and our habits follow. So you can think, if you take these into totality, these four, you can see how it would impact relationships. If there is, and in the work world, we call it culture. And because I have a master's in business and do a lot of coaching around the business context, I'll just call it culture here as well, the culture of the family. There's a couple culture as well. And if you're always fostering conflict and disagreement, then those things just get reinforced over and over again. And that feeling within you, it gets shared, and that frequency. And so you can see how that
turns into a pattern.
And so this isn't just a metaphor, it's actually a phenomena, and our brains and emotions literally tune into the frequencies of those around us.
Amazing.
So the question that we have, I think is relevant here is, well, what do I do about it? And how do we implement that what? And this is where the Love Solve Academy and the Love Solve for Couples comes into play, because there's a lot of tools that we have taken and used and found very powerful. So I'll let Andrea tell you about some of those.
Yeah, so we have recently taken the Love Solve for Couples and are becoming certified in this as trainers, and we'll be able to teach the Love Solve for Couples to other people. And there's some really amazing tools that we've learned as a couple, some really incredible things. So I'm just going to kind of gloss over today just a few of the things that we've learned. And there's a lot of tools that involve a fair amount of writing to start. So, and that actually, the tool of the writing is really, really powerful in kind of getting to the bottom of what the root is of patterns, emotions, baggage that's been there for a long time. So we start out with the Love Solve. One of the very first tools that we learn is called the emotion wells or emotional wells. And so basically what we do with emotional wells, they're kind of like emotions that we don't deal with, we don't resolve in any way, we just kind of tuck them in and don't take care of them. And then so over time, we just get like layer after layer, these emotions that are stuck there.
And they have to be stored somewhere.
Right.
So they get stored in our bodies.
Right. They get stored in our bodies. And so over time, you'll see like kind of a leakage in our behavior. Sometimes even with our health, things will be triggered by emotions that are buried and kept there for a long time and not dealt with. So one of the tools that we use to begin with is emotional wells. And we start with negative wells, and we'll do writing prompt questions where we are trying to identify the emotions that are there in the well, what layer they're in, and then basically to write them out, to identify what they are, bring them up and out, so that we get through all the layers of the well, and then we get down to a place of the negative well, or the zero, where it's empty, which is a beautiful place to get to. And then when we get to that place, then what we start to do actually is the opposite, where we do the positive emotions. And this is called the positive well, where we'll have prompt questions that we will focus on and be writing out and fill up those positive wells with now new positive emotions. So it's a really beautiful process, and just to see what's there, to let go of the old stuff, and then to bring in new emotions to fill those that empty space. So it's quite a beautiful process. Some of the other tools, moving from emotional wells, we then learn emotional transformation. And some of the tools that we learned there were really interesting and fun. So one of them was physical and vocal release. So to actually help emotions that are stuck, we would do physical effort, like actually taking a rock, and this is like a problem that we have, or someone that we're upset with, and we take this rock and we are vocalizing and we are throwing the rock. So, and it's a way for us to release. And Richard has done some of that work. I didn't get to try that one yet, but I'm sure I'll be doing in the future, because these are tools that we can be using over and over and over again.
Well, and the part about the physical is it does help to get rid of that within the body, like the storage within the body. We need to use we store emotions with our five senses, because that's the language of their mind. The sight, the hearing, the smell, the taste, the touch, and so that motion gives us that kinesthetic release as well. So those of us who are predisposed that way, it really helps.
We're going to be doing this. Christine and I are going to be doing this in a bit. We're going to be talking about personality types. And for people who are physical personality types, this one is particularly effective to do that physical release.
And all of us have components of each one of the personality types.
And we'll be learning about those. So. Yeah. Okay, so some other tools in the emotional transformation level that we learn about is write, speak, burn, and then also write, speak, and then keep. So we write, we speak, and then we burn up what we wrote. And then another tool is to write, speak, and then hold on to that. Or it might be more of an endearing message, a message to God, a message of love, something like that. So, okay, so we're going to skip ahead to quantum wholeness meditations. So this is kind of the last section that we learn in the Love Cell for couples. There's 3 basic meditations that we practice. We get to learn about them, and then we get to practice them.
Except they're not basic.
Yeah, actually, they're not basic.
They're great. 3 different ones.
But they're pretty amazing.
Yeah, 3 different.
So 3 different ones that we learn with the Love Self training is called Time Triangle Meditation, Transcendence Triangle Meditation, and then 3-layer meditation. And the 3-layer is actually the quantum wholeness meditation. You can do it in 3 layers. So I wanted to specifically share the time triangle meditation experience that we've done that together as a couple. We've actually been trying to do that one every day together. It takes about 6 minutes, right? 6-8 minutes.
Yeah, probably 8 minutes total.
Yeah, and so what we've been doing is doing this meditation together, and we're focusing on the same pattern, goals that we have, that we want to shift in our marriage, in our family. And so I've really been enjoying doing this time triangle meditation on a daily basis. It's been awesome. And it doesn't take very long either. So another part of it, the time triangle, I've been doing it individually on myself. And one thing that you can do with the time triangle meditation is to help move pain out of your body. So I tend to struggle with migraines. I've had some not full migraine pain recently in the last few weeks, but where like it's kind of starting. And so I've had pain in my eye. So I've actually done the time triangle meditation, focusing on the pain in my eye. And the first time that I tried it, I was able to focus on the pain that was in my eye and then focus on another area of my body where I didn't have pain and kind of bring those two together. And the time triangle meditation doesn't take very long, maybe 5 minutes. And I literally was able to move the pain out of my eye so that it was gone. So that was really incredible. That was the first time that I tried it, and I had a profound experience with it. And then I tried it again a few days later. I had that right eye pain that came back, not a full, just the trigger pain in my eye. And did that time triangle meditation again, focusing on that area. And so with that meditation, the pain decreased during the meditation, and then it took about 5 minutes. And then within 5 minutes, that pain was gone out of my eye again. So really, really cool applications for these very practical applications for like right now, solve the problem applications, and then also for shifting patterns and shifting areas of your life that you want to, which we're working on.
Yeah,
we'll keep you posted on that.
We're very grateful for Christine and all the work that she's done in her life to be led and learn all the principles, and then to create some of these tools that are just amazing. So I encourage you to look into them.
So Andrea has done a great job of explaining that part 1 of the program does the emotional work, and part 2 creates some miracles with quantum wholeness meditation. So my question was, why was there such a leap in improvement between part 1 post and part 2 pre, which means there was no session in between there. It was just the end of one part and the beginning of the next. So there was a few days. What caused the improvement? And that is because the last session of our training, we taught them Ho'oponopono. Who knows what Ho'oponopono is? That's the prayer, okay? The Hawaiian prayer for taking full responsibility. Oh, yay, I have some hands. The Hawaiian prayer for taking full responsibility for your life. I actually got to share this with Joe Vitale personally. I was on one of his group coaching things, and I told him, I said, because he's one of the promoters of, Dr. Hugh Lin and the Ho'oponopono stuff. And so I got to tell Joe that like this came up in my research, and it was really fun. So it's the I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And when they practice that in their head, do you see that for that week before their next session, they had a significant jump as if they'd done a whole series of sessions. Isn't that cool?
Okay, so now you're going to share about, So going back to the emotional alchemy, this is another section that we've learned about in the Love Self for couples. Ho'oponopono. We learn about Ho'oponopono, and Richard has had a pretty cool Ho'oponopono experience that he would like to share.
Yeah, about 6 years ago, I learned Ho'oponopono for the first time in an NLP training, neuro-linguistic programming training. And I remember they asked us, who's the first person that comes to mind that you need to do this with? And I had a friend back home. So this was in Chicago, and our home at the time was in Ontario. I had a friend who, I don't even know why, but he got upset at me for again, an unknown reason, but he would ghost me and ignore me whenever he would see me. And I kind of held on to this. I'm going to be a bigger man, and I'm going to be nice to him and say hi regardless of how he treats me. And so when we did Ho'oponopono on it, I just knew I had to, because they explained what it was for. It's like, it's forgiveness, it's letting go. And so I did that. And after I flew home, the next time that I saw him, he actually came to me and said, "Hey, Richard, how are you doing?" And he said, "Would it be okay if we sat down and talked sometime?" And so we set up an appointment for a day or two later, and he came in and said, "I'm so sorry. I don't even know what came over me." And he apologized for for how that went. And in that moment, I realized how interconnected, well, not just that moment, but from that experience, how interconnected we are energetically, and the importance to let go and forgive. And Ho'oponopono is a tool to be able to use to do that. And it can be really powerful.
Then when I taught them quantum wholeness meditation, the next thing was that they then started to use intention and meditate together. All right. So Dr. Tracy Clark was my mentor. She oversaw my dissertation. She studied observer effects by measuring physiological markers in patients like blood pressure, heart rate, and oxygenation. She used two separate intentions with her practitioner observation. Either one, she was focusing on their symptoms, or two, she was focusing on their positive health goals. So her dissertation, she left her patients in the waiting room, went out and studied their charts, and then came back and did their vitals a second time, as if she'd forgotten. Okay. So kind of like that pre and post. But during that time, this power of intention was her looking at their chart. When she looked at their chart and focused on the negative traits and the negative conditions of their health and came back, their vitals were worse. When she focused on their chart while they were waiting in the patient room on the table, and focused on their positive health goals and imagined them achieving those goals and went back in, their physiological responses improved. Isn't that wild? Okay, so she said, I had to use something to measure something like that. In the mental health world, we don't. Okay, that is unfortunate, and it could change. I sent out blood pressure cuffs to all of my couples. It was cheaper than renting an office space in 2020 when you couldn't see clients in your office anyway. So I sent blood pressure cuffs to all the couples. They measured their blood pressure before, during, and after their couple sessions. You can imagine in the first few sessions doing the love self technique, it still involved a lot of blood pressure rising. There is a chart that shows that when the men specifically were measured in their blood pressure before, during, and after the first half, the part one of this study, it went up. There's something that happened though after that changed it. And this one shows what happened to the women who, during the part one of emotional intelligence training, their heart rate, it got, they were comfortable because they were sitting. But when they were doing meditation, it was even better. They were even safer in the session with their significant other than they were before. Okay. All right. The thing that Richard and Andrea brought to this is his vast experience and success in the life coaching field. Like, he's literally full-time in that and doing great. And they had a little bit of a faith journey with us like last fall when all this shifted, and it was amazing to watch that work. And so I already shared the research on the Ho'oponopono, but if you have the workbook, it's available to write on. If not, grab a piece of paper. So I'm curious, we had some hands go up to say that they recognized Ho'oponopono, or not, that they recognized Ho'oponopono. And that is something that Calais Perkins likes to teach about. And so I put in there, I forgive you, but officially it's just, you're really just supposed to allow the forgiveness to come back. So we talked about that yesterday a little bit. It was really cool when we delved into that somewhat and talked about how really you're forgiving yourself, because in the process of clearing, you can only clear yourself. Some people will say that Ho'oponopono happened, it occurs in a different order of the prayer steps. I don't know that there's a right or wrong, but we've set it up in our workbook to go this
right.
way.
And I remember when you're going through the love solve training for couples, doing the positive wells, and just how they totally align with the Ho'oponopono prayer, right? Like almost perfectly. So you were right on.
So that's why I do it this order. So if you're doing the well,
Yeah.
you would start with intentions and responsibility, which is a parallel to I'm sorry. So first thing would be to figure out who in your life, in your relationships, because we're on relationship day,
Yeah.
is not, and actually, and when Samantha Akers comes on in a few minutes, she does this, she does a really similar thing. So this is a really good segue.
Cool. We'll just lead right into her.
Meta. And so she says that we have a hard person, an easy person, and a neutral person. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so don't necessarily start with a really hard person, but to do Ho'oponopono for it to really matter, you want to at least have a range of hard. So you have a little bit hard, medium, difficult person, like off the chart, don't know what to do. So start with between maybe a little bit hard and medium difficulty, I would say.
Okay, so we want to pick somebody then in that medium difficulty. So it could be a spouse, could be a child, could be a parent. So for all you listeners out there, is to pick somebody that you know that you need to forgive, and then we're going to use
You may not
these.
know you need to forgive them. You just know they're difficult.
Okay, sure. Yeah, they're difficult. They are a challenge. We recently had my mother living with us, and man, did it bring up, wow, holy smokes, do I have a lot of baggage that I needed to work on, because she was in our home, in my space, in my face all the time. And wow, did it really brought up the work that the things that I needed to work on and that I had been holding on to that I didn't even realize was there. So
put in the chat if you've got someone. You don't have to say who they are, though.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us who it is, but do you have somebody?
Do you have somebody?
Yeah, so the place that we're going to start is I'm sorry that. And so you're going to be I'm sorry that, whatever it is, fill in the blank, and we'll give you some quiet time to do that. Okay, and then the next prompt, I'm gonna try to give you guys a minute for each one of these, because we've got about 3 to 4 minutes left and 4 things left. So the next one is, please forgive me for. Please forgive me for. Fill in that blank. And try to get as detailed as you can. This, because the more detailed that you get, the better it will be to let that go. Get as specific as you can. Okay. And then the next part is, I forgive you for. I forgive you for. And again, try to be as specific as you can.
Andrea, we got some questions in the chat.
I can't
Somebody's
see.
asking if you can give an example as to, like, when you say, like, for instance, I'm sorry that, things didn't work out.
It could be something really specific that happened. Maybe it's a situation that happened, or maybe it's been years of a pattern. So it depends on what you're working on. Is this a specific incident that happened, or is this a pattern that you've had with a person?
I can share mine. just so you
Sure.
have an
Thanks,
example.
Christine.
So I'm
Thank
using
you.
my ex-husband, who it's so much easier to forgive someone when you're not living with them and you're not being hurt by them on a daily
True.
basis.
Very
So
true.
that might be that would be like kind of the easy medium range is it's in the past, but it still comes up. And so but I'm presently sorry that he lives alone. I'm sorry that you live alone and that your world is so spacious, but so empty. Like he has a lot abundantly materially, but not a lot of people in his life. And I just feel some sadness about that. And I put, please forgive me for not appreciating our lives more. And what I could have been more content, and I
Awesome.
wasn't.
Great examples.
I forgive you for lacking empathy.
Awesome.
Be also responsible to forgive yourself if, so you can bring it back to you instead of the other person if you want. And I forgive you.
And Christy, you answered the next question because someone was asking if it was aimed towards themselves or to the person. So when you're using Ho'oponopono, it can be both.
Yeah.
You can direct it towards yourself first, and then direct it towards the person that you're actually cleaning up the situation for, because that's exactly what Ho'oponopono means, is to set right. You're setting right the situation that is coming to mind. And I always suggest when I'm working with anyone or when I'm supervising, because I also supervise the sessions, is go with your first thought. And then if you need to get specific, go ahead and get specific.
Okay. Thank you for all that clarification, Daryl. That's great.
Sure.
Christine, thanks for your suggestions. Okay, we've got 2 left and we're getting really short on time here. So let's do the next one is thank you for. So we're moving into gratitude. Thank you for. So what are you thankful for about that situation or about that person? Okay, and the last one is I love you because. And again, this could be the other person, this could be you. It could be both. I love you because.
I'm
Okay.
curious who feels a shift in that. Put shift in the chat. I had a
Yeah.
shift. It was really cool.
How did that feel for you guys?
I did thank you for being a friend. Just to keep going with my examples. And I really do love that he and I raised a family together. And that's solid. Like, yeah. And it's really cool to get to that with an ex. To get back to love. And you don't have to love them. You could also bring that back to yourself. I love me because I stood up for myself and I got out. That would be okay to go to the love there.
Yeah, I love that. All right, that is Ho'oponopono in a nutshell.
It's such a powerful thing to sit and do that. And writing is so powerful. That is a big part of what we do is the writing.
Yeah, it really is. And the Ho'oponopono is great because it's a tool that you can use over and over and with different people and with different situations. Like you could literally do Ho'oponopono for a long time, even daily, and work on something else and someone else.
I love the chat. This is so good. Ellen's dealing with heavy
I need
stuff
to
with
move down.
exercising too. And she's sharing, thank you. That the last 2 are really hard. It is. That's a shift. It could take support with that. And we would love to support you. And so that's what we do in our programs, basically. That was right out of our liberation training manual. And then someone felt lighter, which is so cool. And then we had someone also experience the tearful urges. Let them go, because that's powerful to release emotion.
Mhm.
Don't hold back.
Awesome.
Thank you, Andrea. That was great. Well, okay, here's what I want to propose. If anybody's up for this, say full day, because I think we could do a good 5-hour training on just couple stuff, on just the elements that would heal relationships, or just maybe even this in a relationship format. Because what I found is that for every one couple that did my research program, there were like 5 to 10 individuals, usually women, but men too, that just wanted to support their own journey. And that's where liberation training was born. And so then I just went into that, and I'm finally back to the couples work. But this is for mothers and daughters. This is for fathers and sons. I can't tell you the power I had. I had a father and son clients, and it was transformational for these two guys to work through their emotions. It was huge.
That's so cool.
It's so good. So it doesn't have to be like a marital type or romantic couple. It could be anyone in your life that you want to heal with.